Oh, hello. I'm still in my workout gear. I'm going to come near a natural light. Hi. This is the first time I talked to camera today, and it's like after 2. We have been today tidied the house. The house is now clean. And Amelia came to PT with me because we realised that the cleaning and my personal training, hence the Hooga band, were at the same time. So it was easier for her to come with me and sit in Sean's garage on her iPad while I worked out, rather than her going in the garage with Chris while he tried to work. So it worked quite well. Sean was perfect with it, which was lovely. And then, as a treat for the fact that she sat for an hour while I worked out, we went to Molly's, which is our favourite American diner. So I'm quite full. I had a burger. We also had some guacamole and chips. I had the guac. She had most of the chips. And then she had a grilled cheese and fries, and didn't like the grilled cheese, mainly because she let it get cold, and grilled American cheese, when it's been melted and then allowed to go cold, is not the nicest thing to eat. I don't blame her for leaving it. So we're home now. She is starting to mess up the room again. I've just turned the heating back on, so I've got my knee against the radiator going, just warm up, just warm up. And we bought Chris some French toast that has, I think, very quickly disappeared. So yes, that's been our morning, day so far. Yes, Amelia. Okay, I will come and help you in a minute. Okay.
Mommy, I'm gonna do a Christmas tree one. I'm gonna run out to this one.
Okay.
This looks cool. I'm gonna do purple and make a tree.
Nice.
You need to do the red one.
Oh, I need to do a red one for that.
Amy, I can do the red berry. Daddy, you want to do some coloring?
So I just started filming like a sequence of Amelia and I playing with her Duplo, and then the post arrived, or rather Chris brought the post to us because it had arrived while we were out. And there was a letter in there that as soon as I got it I was like, basically happy tears. So for those of you who've been around for a while, you'll know that we lost my grandmother, my father's mum, 3 years ago, August 2017. And there's been when she passed away, I did a blanket along, which then that blanket was raffled off for the Alzheimer's Society and the Smallwood Trust. Smallwood Trust, yes. My granny died of complications due to dementia. And she is buried. She's pretty much one of the only people I know who has been interred in the ground rather than cremated, of all the funerals I've been to. And she's buried in Royal Wootton Bassett, which is where she spent most of her kind of retirement. And her funeral service was in Wootton Bassett main church, and she'd had this plot picked out for years, and la la la. Anyway, none of us live very close. I'm one of the closest of the descendants, let's call them, of my grandmother to Wootton Bassett, and there were a lot of different circumstances and a lot of different things and a lot of angst. But basically, Granny hasn't had a headstone in 3.5 years. And after much toing and froing, I was given responsibility, or rather the responsibility of her grave was transferred to me in about April. Yeah, March, April, right at the start of lockdown. So that was interesting, getting that sorted with Wootton Bassett Council. But yeah, it was transferred to me, so I now have responsibility for her grave, which meant that I could make a start on getting her headstone in place. And I've worked with a really amazing stonemason who really understood that they had a specific deadline that I wanted this headstone in place by. I had 2 deadlines, but I knew that one was relatively unrealistic, which was the anniversary of her death in August. But then the second deadline was her birthday, and her birthday is the 30th of December. And I got a letter through today from the stonemason with a picture of her memorial in place. And I just burst into tears. And it's happy tears because it's finally there. It's finally in place. There's finally something that marks my grandmother's grave. I literally joked with Chris. I'm not going to be haunted by her now, am I? Because my grandmother was a witch. We all know this, right? Have I told you this story before? Probably not. So story time. Shall we do story time? And I'm going to try and find some pictures of, and they're probably going to be stolen from my cousin Tess. So, my grandmother had 4 children. 3 sons and a daughter. My father is number 2 in that group, but I am the eldest grandchild. Closely followed by my cousin Greg, who is 9 months younger than me, 8 months younger, 7 months younger than me. I think his mum was pregnant with him when I was born. Anyway, very early pregnancy. It doesn't really matter, does it? Anyway, so if there's 10 grandchildren, I'm the eldest. And the 4 of us who are the eldest, so me and Yannick, my eldest little brother, and Greg and Tess are all of kind of the same age. We're all born within 1984 to 1986. And the 4 of us knew Granny at her best before the dementia got her. And Granny was eccentric, a character, well known. And one of the things she was most well known for was proclaiming to be a witch. So much so that she ended up on Kilroy. Now, those of us who are of a certain age will remember Robert Kilroy Silk. Not a very nice man, as it turns out, but he used to host a programme called Kilroy, which was kind of like this talk show talking about like events of the day and all that kind of stuff, like current affairs type stuff. Predecessor to Jeremy Kyle, but a bit more straight-laced, shall we call it that? Anyway, she, her claim to fame, which ended her up on TV, was that the park in the behind where she lives, so at the end of her garden, basically, they had put in planning permission application to erect a play park, basically on the other side of her fence, in the local park. Perfect, lovely. Always nice to have amenities for kids, isn't it? Great. My grandmother objected, not because of noise, because of like just generally being disturbed. No, she objected because she said that the large climbing frame would be in the way of her flight path on her broomstick. Yes, so that was my grandmother. We grew up. We had some fab adventures with my granny, and I always knew my grandmother was single. My grandfather left her when I think my father was 18. So we always knew her as single. She never remarried. She had various dogs. The last one that I remember was a black poodle called Scamp. He was a very naughty dog, but he was fun. And then after that, I don't think she had anything. But she joked that he was her familiar. Which she had the whole get up. There's pictures of me, and I don't know if I've still got it. I'll ask my mum. Of me in the witch get up. There was, I think, part of the VT for Kilroy was my Aunt Sarah and my grandmother around a cauldron. I think, I can't remember. Anyway, she's fab. Yeah, my favourite Christmas memories of her were actually baking for Christmas. So we used to live, when my parents were still together, basically the last penultimate house that we were in. So yeah, my formative years were spent in a converted barn. Really lovely house, really lovely place to grow up. It was like a little hamlet and like an old farmstead, basically, where we lived in the barn. We had two families living across the road in the Oast house, which had been split into two houses. There was a smaller family next door in the granary. The farmhouse, which was this beautiful Georgian beautiful, could have almost been a mansion type house with beautiful grounds, and there was fields, there was a lake down the bottom of it. Like, it was idyllic in terms of an upbringing, and I could, like, we rode our bikes with no fear of being run over by cars and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Granny would come to our house and we had a big kitchen with a massive island, and my cousins would also be there, so Granny would bring them with her from Devon, and we would take it in turns to stir the Christmas pudding and stir the Christmas cake. So yes, that's my Granny. I'm hoping that I can find some photos to kind of show you. She was awesome, and I'm really grateful that she stuck around long enough to meet Amelia. So she still has actually 3 great-grandchildren from her 10 grandchildren. And her grandchildren range from me, 36, to... Is Josh her youngest? Yeah, he is. So 19, almost 20. I loved my Granny. I remember the fun stuff and the ridiculous and the coming up with the stories and the generally just being a little bit nutty. So it was really hard for me, and I think for my brother and for my cousins, Greg and Tess, the four eldest. I think it was incredibly hard for us. And you know, actually, probably my 5 and 6, Charlotte and Francis. Oh, actually, no, they're not 5 and 6. 5 and 7, Charlotte and Francis. I think it was hard for for us 6 to see the decline. Dementia's a beast. I could say a lot ruder things about it, but I know that kids watch this. It's not nice. It's not nice for the person, and it's not nice for the people who are watching it happen. And we know a lot more now, but there's not much we can do about it still. So I think that's why her not being marked affected me so much, because that kind of felt like the last thing I could do for Granny, because there was very little we could do towards the end. So, oh God, I'm crying again. It's good, Tiz. It's good. It's good. I'm so glad I've managed to do this for her. And I'm not going to be haunted. Yay. Because she totally would. She totally would. So yeah. Obviously, I'm not carrying on Vlogmas, so I'm going to go down to Wootton Bassett on the 30th. Thankfully, they are in tier 2, so I can, for her birthday, and I'm going to put some flowers on her new grave. I'll probably put a picture up on Instagram, I think, which I know, like, I'll put a trigger warning on it as well, because I know that death and graveyards and things like that can be a trigger for people, so I'll put a trigger warning on it before I put it on, but I'm kind of stinking proud of the fact that it's in there. Yeah. I don't want to be that person that lives in the past, but it's important to mark the people in your lives, isn't it? And to respect their memory. And now, oversharing, but we do on this vlog, don't we? We do on this channel. I do not want to be buried. And my original reason was, if I'm still alive and they've just got it wrong, I'd rather be burnt alive than buried alive. That's... Because, like, if you're cremated, you're burnt, so you're going to be dead anyway. But if you're buried alive and you wake up in a coffin, however many feet underground, you can't get out. So you know, like, it's inevitable that you're going to die. But you know that, and it's going to be slow and agonising. Whereas being burned alive, it's agonising, but it's done. Is that weird? It's probably weird. But anyway, that was my original reason for being wanting to be cremated. And also because I could then be scattered, like, in the mountains, which is my happy place. You can't obviously be buried just on a ski slope. But my second now reason for, and this is from the fact that we've had such trouble sorting out Granny's grave, is we've had such trouble sorting out Granny's grave. And I don't want that for Amelia. I just don't. I would much rather she cremate me. And I'm going to assume that this is Amelia who's going to be doing this. But, like, I would much rather my descendants cremate me, do something with the ashes, don't keep the ashes, do not do that. I'm saying this for posterity if they ever watch my YouTube channel in like 40, 50, 60 years' time. I'm obviously thinking I'm going to last a long time. Anyway. But, like, do something with the ashes, scatter them somewhere. If it's not in the mountain, somewhere that's nice. And then it's done. And there's not a place that you have to go and visit and contribute to the upkeep, whether it's that you go and keep up the grave, or whether it's you pay someone to go and with the upkeep of the grave. There's just so much admin that's involved in being buried. Whereas cremation, actually, unless you decide to, like, bury the ashes or whatever, do something with them that holds a spot, you're not tied to that spot. You can carry on remembering them, and you can have those memories through photos and memories and songs and all that kind of stuff, but it's not tied to a geographical location. I think that's my issue. And I think that's probably because we are a family of nomads. Like, I've lived in a lot of places. We love to travel. Like, if there was a reason why we had to leave the country for Chris's work or my work or whatever, it would be hard, but I could do it. Being tied to a geographical location isn't a thing for me. This has gone in a really weird direction, but I'm glad I've had this conversation with you. Oh dear. I'm going to go and have a shower now. Good evening. It's like 11:30. I've just come off a Zoom, just about 45 minutes ago, come off a Zoom with the NCT mummies, which has been really nice. We were supposed to go out for dinner tonight in a outdoor but covered, rule of 6 compliant meal tonight, but one of us is now in tier 4, and the others, there's a couple of people who are seeing family for Christmas this weekend, so kind of made the decision to isolate, so we decided to Zoom instead. But during the meetup, I finished and have now got blocking my Vlogmas cowl. Wait a minute, let me just look at it. This is my Vlogmas cowl because this lighter colour shade is Lay Family Yarn DK, Merino DK, in the colourway It's Vlogmas. The red is 3rd Volt yarn called Desire. I think it's the Caroline DK, and I have used pretty much every single scrap of this yarn. Literally, this is what's left. That's it. And obviously I need to sort the ends out of this thing, and I don't think I met gauge. I think I was over the gauge because you shouldn't really use, I don't think you should use all of the yarn. And I added a crab stitch border at the top. Well, that's, yeah. Yeah, I added a, I can't remember which one's so this is the starting edge, and it was a foundation chain. So when you actually you don't do a chain and then go and work into the chain, you do a foundation stitch, which basically you're kind of chaining and stitching as you go, and it was really loose, it was kind of flaring out, so I then kind of did a securing double crochet, US single crochet in the contrast because I had some of this left after I finished this, whereas I completely ran out of the Desire. So yeah, really happy with it, and I'm hoping it'll be dry by Christmas Eve. That'd be nice if I could have it dry by Christmas Eve. So I might tomorrow put it in front of the radiator to try and jiggle it along a little bit so that I can wear it on Christmas Eve at the end of Vlogmas. Anyway, I am going to sign off. I'm leaning on my floor now. I'm going to sign off for now because it's late and almost the 23rd. I've just given Chris his anniversary present. He's just given me mine, and I'll show you those tomorrow. Because that's what Chris and I do. We give each other presents way too early. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Good night.